to the show. I'm Todd. We got Andy with us. This is the writer's block, not just the show. We talk about writing and stuff like that. So, should probably specify that. So today we have a number of fascinating topics. What do you want to start with, Mr. Kamara? Of all the many topics that we could choose, which one is most enticing to you to talk about today?
We can dive into the Save the Cat book that you recommended before and the board cards. It seems like you have a lot to say about that, and I'm interested to hear your opinion and then give my feedback that I haven't started doing yet.
I don't know if I have a lot to say about it. I can say a few things, at least a couple sentences. So Save the Cat, the book that we're referencing is a book by Blake Snyder. This is what it looks like. We each have one. It's almost like we're taking a class on Save the Cat or something. So this book, called The Last Book on Screenwriting That You'll Ever Need, is a book about screenwriting. However, screenwriting and writing in general, it's kind of the same process in a way, different in some ways, but similar enough where this book applies. It's a book that my uncle recommended to me. I've probably gone over this in previous episodes.
I feel like you have.
But anyways, though, the part that Andy's talking about, board cards, is basically the idea is that you have this. God, I'm not really too prepared for this, but you have this board. Basically, the idea is you don't have to have a board,
like a cork board.
Yeah, and you have a bunch of different scenes planned out on this board. It's used in screenwriting to show exactly what's going on, where, and whatever. And so I did this with my first book and my second book, I think. These are the cards. I didn't have a cork board, not a big enough one because I have quite a few, scenes. But so let me find a decent. All right, so here's one. It's my handwriting is atrocious. It's a good thing I type out my books, because if I wrote them all by hand, you would not be able to read them. So one of the things that you need for these board cards is, is it an interior or an exterior, inside, outside? And then exterior of what, or the interior of what? So here it's the exterior, the interior of, the main character's car, Frank. And he's driving his daughter to school. It goes over what's going on. She's upset that she's late to school again because her dad was, not the best father at the time. Frank tries to explain his hardships, tells him blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so you kind of give a brief description of the scene, and then you have a couple other points. Like Frank speeds and runs through stop signs to get his daughter to school on time. However, he fails to get her to school on time, and his daughter criticizes his alcoholism. That's one of the conflicts because you write on, you write down the conflict of the scene, if there is one. There's one that says Frank is trying, but his attempts are met with negativity and pushback, and like he's trying to do better, but he's not necessarily getting the support. And so that's these are basically like it's what's going on in the scene, and then the major objectives that you want to get out of the scene. Something to push the plot forward a little bit more. So basically, you do a card like that for all the scenes in your book, or that you have throughout your book. So you can make your outline, however long it is, and then you break the outline down into more detailed scenes, and then you end up with 400 cards like this. Now, it's, for me, like when I was writing this book, I had them all laid out on a table, so I could do it scene by scene. I would add in cards, to build the story more if I thought it needed it, or if I wanted to, whatever. And basically, it's just why I like it is it's a good way to organize your story and keep track of what's going on, because this is basically a very detailed outline, basically. And so it's easy to add stuff, easy to rearrange scenes. You can move this scene a little bit farther over, or what have you. So that's the idea behind board cards. I haven't read this book in a few years, but I I'm pretty sure that's what the author was looking to do when he suggested board cards. Although, again, he suggested board cards for screenwriting. So I kind of adapt that to your own writing for a novel, book, short story, what have you. But so any questions?
Well, do you think you could I was thinking like, oh, I could just do all that on like my memo pad that I have here. Well, this is my podcast one. I don't know where my novel one went, somewhere in this place. But then when you said if you wanted to add more in between, like you could add another card in between two other scenes. I was like, oh, that makes more sense, because then if I have it all written down on the memo pad and then I'm like, oh, I need to add something else. Now there's a lot of squiggly lines and arrows. And
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, it's because you see the card, you know where you're at, you know what's going on, who's in the scene, and it's just things that you might forget or something like that or might not be in the outline. And I to me, I like it quite a bit. I still do it. Like, this is these are the cards for the book, The Sound of Silence, one that was a lot like Carrie. So did all that for nothing. But
well, you could still.
I have to completely redo it. So
is it really that? It was really that, and you didn't even read Carrie.
I hadn't read Carrie.
So that means you're just the next Stephen King without being the next Stephen King.
Maybe
that's what you're telling.
Could be. So it's a religious family.
Can you just tweak some of the stuff to make it not?
I'd have to tweak. I have to tweak a whole lot. I mean, you have a crazy daughter, religious parents.
Okay, it can be so instead of religious parents, have them be atheist.
I mean, I could, but
then they have them like follow their own code, like just create their own code or following.
The thing is like they were following a very fringe religion. That I forget exactly. I think it's called. I don't know if it's actually fringe anymore. I think it's actually growing, but I think it's called Pentecostal or something like that. So it's a religion where you speak in tongues and stuff like that. It's an offshoot. It's an offshoot of Christianity somehow. One of those hundreds of different types of Christian religion, but it was also very conservative. Like, it was a very locally based conservative version of a Pentecostal teachings. Like certain media they couldn't listen to. They couldn't read certain books. It took place in the 80s, so couldn't watch any of the mainstream movies that people watch. Couldn't read the books. Couldn't listen to the music. I had to listen to classic.
You could still,
but the religion was a big part of why the family was the way it was.
Okay, and instead of religion, make it something else. Make it a cult. Make it.
It's the thing is I can. I would have to redo almost everything. Like, I couldn't just make it I could make it a cult, but then it would be an entirely different story.
Cult, and then the lady is crazy because she wants to get out of it, but she's been brainwashed, so she doesn't know how the real world actually works. So she seems crazy, and people think for her leaving is crazy.
Yeah, it's a project that's way on the back burner right now. Like, I already tried doing some rewrites. I already tried looking up through other avenues. I'll probably end up releasing it as a short story at some point, but it's not even on my list anymore. It was supposed to come out either last year or this year. It was on my next on my list, but I have to change a lot because, and it's not just the religion, and it's also the daughter who has sort of like not supernatural abilities, but like a supernatural connection to, what she thinks is God. And there were a lot of similarities to Carrie, like not just the religious point, not just the family, not just her being an outcast, but I mean, we're talking at the end of the book, she was going to burn down the church and it was going to be this big mess, but guess what happens at the end of the Carrie book? Spoiler alert, town gets destroyed. I mean, there are so many similarities that it's just, I have to go all the way back to this part and start taking out a whole crap ton of cards because it's just too spot on. So I'm not even worried about that right now.
Well, it's good to know that We can you can be Stephen King's Ghost Rider when he can't write anymore.
Maybe. I mean, it wasn't written in the same. So he wrote Carrie with like he had a mixture of like first person uh, writing and then also third person like news articles and stuff like that. It's a really cool method that I'm actually probably going to use for my dystopia series. But and I hadn't been writing that series the way that he wrote that, but actually, I mean, I was I was writing it from like a the future, like the, a lot of the scenes take place in like 1987 or 1986, but they're being recalled from like 1994 when the crazy lady is being interviewed. But yeah, I gotta figure that out. It's a it's a mess for another day. Probably in like 5 months when I have less stuff to do. But yeah. Any other questions on Save the Cat or
Well,
these cards? I do recommend if you I think
so
it's like
how
99 cents. You get 100 index cards. You can
so
write
how
them all
detail
out.
so how many scenes did you just pick the major scenes that
Everything.
you every scene? So even
Yeah.
if like the beginning of my novel before they find out
All right.
there's a body there's a okay spoiler alert there's a body that washes up on
Let
the
me show you what I got. And
okay
so the very first scene is it's a conversation taking place on a news network about um, basically well, it's on here. It's the Defense of Freedom Act, but it's the legislation that allowed the viral pandemic that happened in my book to happen in the first place. So, kind of funny that we're in that now. But anyways,
also it's psychic too so you got a lot of going for you to make millions of dollars.
yeah, follow me on Twitter. I do tarot card readings as well. I can tell you your future. Uh, just kidding. But yeah, so it starts off with that conversation, then it jumps ahead 4 years to actually 5 years to like the very next scene, which is the main character waking up next to his wife who is pissed off at him because he messed up. The next scene is when he drives his daughter to work. The next scene is when he's at work. The next scene is a flashback from when he was this is going to sound awful, a grocery manager. And he came into work drunk and made a big mess. And then this is the next scene. It's funny. So the grocery store that he works at is called Skaggs, I think. Skaggs used to be a what? You got a little smile.
I'm just listening.
Oh, well, okay, at my mom's house where I grew up at, we had a medicine cabinet, and inside the cabinet was this old pharmacy sheet from what was called Albertsons Skaggs, which I would assume was put on that medicine cabinet 50 or 60 years ago. So I think like Albertsons, the grocery store, there's either a pharmacy store or another grocery store called Skaggs. They merged. I haven't ever seen a Skaggs, but it's got the name from that. But anyways, does that, and then the next scene comes back to the present, and he's at home. The next scene is he's in his bedroom with his wife, trying to do stuff, and then the next scene is at the bar because he didn't get to do stuff, and then so basically like every single scene, one after another is and as detailed as possible. I'm just I did this super detailed and I got 70,000 words out of it. So,
all right.
it's
Because
worth
my question was going to be like I already have this written down. I'm not going to change it right now anyway. But the opening scene is the police chief and his second in command driving down, I don't know, Main Street or like one of the busy streets, and the chief of police is commenting how it's like more of his speed. Like he doesn't. It's busy out. But it's tourist season, but it's not constant like big city living sort of thing.
Yeah. So
and then he gets the call from the dispatcher saying, there was a body that washed up on shore. Spoiler alert.
Somebody dies.
Yeah, shocker. Anyway, so wow. I would put that on a card. even though it has like other than the body washing ashore,
Yeah,
that whole
you don't want
previous
to.
scene.
You don't really want to write all the dialogue on it. Like you kind of want to be want it to be as concise as possible. So you'd write, in deputy's car, driving to X place. Uh, Chief is talking to deputy about
Whatever.
yeah, and then call comes in. You might even want to do
Okay.
the call on a separate card.
Okay.
If you have this planned banter between the chief and the deputy, then you might want that to be one scene, and then a separate scene, or like a part two, if you will, with the call with the coroner or whoever it was that calls.
Okay.
And so
Dispatch. Okay.
yeah. And then,
right.
again, too, like if there's conflict, like obviously, like conflict is kind of what pushes the story forward.
Mhm.
So if you want to try to have some kind of tension, if like I think your chief and your deputy have a little bit of tension, right?
There's a little bit, yeah.
So maybe you want to, or you maybe want to keep note of that in here, like deputy's still pissed off that.
Well, because that's what I say, like that's what I write in my. That's like the part of it too. Like there's a little brief, like 2 or 3 sentences saying how he felt like he should have gotten the job over this guy.
Yeah, and also like you could write on the card, it's inside the cop car, but maybe it's cloudy outside, maybe it's raining.
Okay.
Little things that you also might, they might want to put in the text that might often forget.
So definitely like trying to focus in on my novel a little bit more than my short stories. Definitely for all you young up and coming writers out there like us, outlining and doing like stuff like that definitely helps more than free, just going off of freehand.
This is what the card looks like in the book. So just to kind of better show what's what the author's going for, the conflict, what's going on in the scene, and do that for each scene, as concise as possible, but with as much as concise as possible without losing anything. You could end up having a pretty decent story. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't even consider starting to write that Sound of Silence book until I had like a fairly thick collection of note cards, because when I see this, this turned into 70,000 words. So the idea is hopefully I can get the same out of this. Not happening here, but that's the idea. And obviously also you can use it to maybe keep track of, maybe I replicated the scene here and there. I don't need to say this twice. Maybe you didn't realize it, that you had similar scenes or similar conversations, and you can use it to maybe continue to like diversify the conversations going on. So you can keep in like a rotation of characters as opposed to having it be the deputy and the sheriff, Maybe you have the postal service guy come in, or you know what I mean. Like you kind of keep this fresh rotation of characters, and depends on what you're looking for.
Well, because I kind of have a better idea of what I want this like first part to be, but it's definitely hard to sit down and write it.
Yeah,
like word line, but that definitely now I'm gonna have to do that. I'm probably gonna go out tomorrow now and buy cards.
I would also say like the first step is still an outline. That way you can see, because you
want
to know the path from scene one to scene, whatever the end is, Z, I guess.
Well, you know what the ending is. We're not going to spoil it here online.
Everybody dies, but you want to see, like, you won't be able to do this if all you see in front of you is clouds.
So
you want to see that road all the way to the end.
I guess another question is like,
this helps you. All right, let me one quick thing before I forget. Because my memory is crap. So if I don't say it now, I'm going to forget it, and that's it. So with the outline, you have this like sort of dirt road that leads you to the end of your story. But in this paves it. This paves it. This is the cement that goes on the ground. Okay.
The asphalt, but it was good. It worked until you said cement. It worked.
Concrete, cement, bricks. I don't give a flying hoot. Okay. The point is that this is what makes it. This makes it a much smoother drive than the dirt road that was previously there. The dirt road is that.
This helps too, because I thought I was gonna outline I'll like outline and have like a lot of detail. But if I
Yeah.
can just have a basic outline without like too much detail to go like
Yeah.
bullet points, that
Yeah, major plot points. Well, like
yeah.
major plot point, like honestly, if you can make like a 2-page outline with all your major points, major events, and even like smaller events, then you take that, then you spread that even you spread that out even further with these. It's basically like you take your story, you're just trying to break it down more and more and more so that you know what's going on,
Mhm.
see what's going on.
So could I create like a before I even do my outline, could I create like the ending scene on a card and then just be like, okay, this is how I want this to end.
Yeah, you could do that.
And then like so I can remind myself because I'm like you sometimes I have to go back and what I've written. It's like, okay, is it 4 months since he's moved into town? Is it 6?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
because
another
I'm
thing too. Is you can use these to keep track of time.
yeah,
5 years later or whatever.
because I know I have
Summertime,
I have a couple short stories using these characters,
cold or warm.
but those are like separate entities. They're just kind of introductions. They have nothing to do with the actual like story. I don't mention them. They're just kind of there. I might I've reused a couple characters that I use in the short stories. I'll probably use that. I'll probably do that too, but not like the scenes. Like the 2 kids who got lost, they might appear. They might not end up being like grocery store thieves instead. You know what I mean? But I've used them in the story, like a short story. Like I have 2 park rangers that appear in both of my short stories, and they're going to appear in my novel because I didn't have. It was funny because originally I didn't have them plotted out at all, and then when I wrote my first short story about using these characters, I was like, these guys actually panned out. Like they worked, like it worked really well. So I'm like, oh, I should probably keep them. And then I used them again in my other short story. I was like, okay, I fleshed them out even more, and then I fleshed out like who they worked for and stuff. So I guess the short stories actually they kind of did help outline a little bit to kind of flesh out characters, but I definitely need to do the note card thing.
Yeah, I mean the first step is just figuring out how you get to that end scene.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was thinking about of how I should have that end scene there and know exactly what it's going to look like, so I can have it. So when I get to the end, it all makes sense.
Yeah,
because sometimes I know what I want. Like in Rue, I knew how it ended. I just didn't know how it was going to start.
Yeah. Like also,
other than bullying,
the one bad thing about, or the one like difficulty in starting with the end first is that every single story move you make leading up to it has to keep that ending in mind. So like,
yeah,
you have to make sure that each move leads to that outcome. Yeah. I remember I wrote something a little different. I wrote a short story, something I haven't released, but it took place in the 1980s, and it had a character who I wrote him in as being um, he had been not a veteran, but he was a survivor of the Bosnian Serbian like the breakup of Yugoslavia, which happened in the early 90s. But I didn't realize until I had finished the whole series, or until I finished the story, that the story itself took place in like 1984, 10 years before the breakup of Yugoslavia. So he's like, talking about, oh yeah, my village was burned and blah blah blah, but like it hadn't even happened yet.
it wasn't even a thought yet.
But yeah, so it's like you gotta. I guess that's one of the issues is like forgetting about certain key things, and then you have to end up rewriting the whole thing. And yada yada. Yeah, I would just you could try working back from it. If you start with the last card and then what scene came before that, what scene came before that, and then so far or so forth, whatever. But
I wonder how that would work.
It would be difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's
I think definitely have working chronologically would definitely be easier. I mean, that's pretty. What's the word? That's I can't think of the word off the top of my head.
Me neither. I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, I would
It's
say
self-explanatory. It's pretty self-explanatory to go, chronologically front to back, like beginning to end. But
could be.
or you could go backwards. It all depends
Yeah,
on
I
what
mean,
you're.
it depends on like it depends on how well you know your story, I guess.
Mhm.
It sounds like you're missing a lot of that middle road.
I am missing the middle.
So
Like like when
yeah,
I was writing it, I created, you know, on the fly sort of thing. Like I was writing a short story, which I can do pretty well, but it's like, okay, after 5 pages or 6 pages, like, okay, oh shit.
yeah. I would say like the first step is maybe like once a week, just write a very basic outline and just maybe write a few different outlines to see how you get from point A to everyone dies at the end, and then see which one you like better. And then once you have like a general outline, you can kind of throw some meat on it, kind of beef it up a bit, and then so I wouldn't start doing this until you are
Oh, I'm not
certain
gonna.
that you want
Yeah,
to do the outline,
yeah.
or until you're certain that you're okay with the outline that you have. But you have to build that the middle of the book first. You
You
have
got
to
to
build
build
that. Yeah,
the base before you can have all the
yeah,
sides, the windows, and all that. The roof. You
yeah,
need
yeah,
that solid base first.
yeah. Because like I don't know exactly what you want to do with the middle of the book, but um, I would definitely like you know start writing down ideas or thoughts and brainstorming
Hmm.
with that because it'll make it easier.
I just definitely need like a day. I
Yeah,
think Sunday is finally a day I don't have anything to do. Like I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to see anybody. I can go to like a coffee shop or the library and just sit and do it. Because like I said, 47,000 times, too many distractions here. If I'm like really in the zone, I can like type on my bed and crank out a short story. But with this bigger project, I
yeah.
need the blinders on for
Well,
a little while.
all I know is, well, actually, I can't remember. What were the wise words from Gary Paulson? Just got to start
Just so
writing.
you just have to write. You don't have it.
Just got to
You
do
don't
it.
have it like in your reach. The
I
book.
mean, it's in my reach. Oh, there it is. Hatchet is always within reach.
I gotta buy that copy just to say I have it. Where did you get that?
I think it was on Amazon. It was a 30th anniversary edition or something. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I got an Amazon gift card for Christmas, so I think I found something that I'm gonna buy it with.
I just bought a hardcover of my Fairly Human book because I'm thinking of writing a sequel to it. And and before I write the dystopia series, I think I could write a decent sequel. But I want to reread it
That's
because
some breaking news right there, folks. You heard it here first.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing it for months now. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do it, but I want to read that. Then I got to read the little novella that came after it, and then uh, this story idea is it's actually an old idea. It's either going to be called The Dreadlands or A World of Dread and Fear. Not a happy place. It's going to be really, really post-apocalyptic because
It's okay. I think our fans have noticed that our stories are less than uplifting.
yeah,
I
okay,
mean, I got a couple in there. You got to find them, but they're
yeah.
there.
This won't be as dark as some of my more recent stories on my webpage, my short stories, but it takes place. It's like I'm going to assume that most people haven't read my book Fairly Human or the sequel novella called The Triple Entente. But basically, you have these zombies, whatever, government's bad, yada yada. Anyways, and then the novella specifically, the short sequel that came after it. Zombies kind of take over much of the southeast. Florida is basically lost. The crazy president that was in charge, he sent nuclear missiles after specific cities that were fighting against him. So you end up with this like partly radioactive area, partly like lost to zombie area. But then there's this
What?
one section. What?
When was this published?
2019?
Okay.
Yeah. We end up with this one section. What?
I was just you're giving like cute. Like, just continue. I'll tell you later. It makes sense.
I will say that all of this was basically an idea that came before any current or previous presidents. I just want to throw that out there. early development started in 2015.
Okay,
So
that's all I
just-
needed. That's all I needed.
It all the government sending the virus. It all started in 2015, and I have the receipts to show it. It is not a political message. Yeah, things just happened to work out the way that they did.
I just have to clear that in the air for our fans. I didn't think it was a political message because we're not very subtle with our messages.
Yeah, I generally try not to get political. I don't want to necessarily alienate audiences, but
same.
So the Fairly Human book did come out in 2018, which is about a year after the inauguration of the previous guy. So I can see why people might have seen it as being political, but it wasn't intended that way. Anyways, this sequel I'm working on would take place in this area called the Badlands, where there's no government. It's basically it's a libertarian's paradise. Basically there's no government, no state, just there's a group that I call the Highwaymen, which are basically bandits. There's independent towns that are mostly self-sustaining, but they're also trying to fight off these bandits. And basically, it's super post-apocalyptic. And the idea is that the main character's daughter from the previous book will be the main character. And a few survivors from Florida, because they all had to escape from DC after everything fell apart. And then, obviously the capital of their state, which was at the time Tallahassee, was destroyed. So yeah, big mess, big ooga booga, as one might say. And it's basically the story is just that, them surviving in this even worse world. But I don't see. I personally, I always loved post-apocalyptic settings. One of my favorite video games is the series is a Fallout series made by Bethesda Softworks.
I was trying to figure out what that shirt was because when it comes to video games, if it's not sport related or like GTA 5 or LA Noire or Italian, that's nothing. I don't even know who makes the Mafia series because I lived it.
I honestly can't remember. I think it's like Ubisoft or something. But anyways, the Fallout series.
Nothing there. Okay.
Well,
missed it. You missed it. Continue. It's too late now.
Say something about meatballs and tomatoes.
Pretty much.
But anyways, so Fallout series, multiple post-apocalyptic TV shows or movies, all kind of like influenced Fairly Human from the beginning. And so I'm going to go even harder on that in this new sequel, if I do it. It's been on the drawing board for like 4 years now. Fun fact, actually, Fairly Human, the book, takes place in 2022. So hopefully
that's not a good sign, but that's good to know.
Yeah.
On that note, I think this is going to be our last podcast because
and it's only January 7th, but
true.
I guess actually it'll be January 14th.
14th. Yeah.
But I was going to say 2022 is also the year that Soylent Green takes place. So just saying, fairly recently, this new drink popped up on the grocery shelves called Soylent, and it actually tastes good, but it might be human. It's 2022. So,
oh God.
Yeah, I got it. So Soylent, the strawberry and banana flavored, had them because I recently had some teeth removed and I couldn't eat. So I drank that stuff and it was pretty good. Just an endorsement, an unpaid endorsement.
Okay, we need an endorsement here soon. We're on episode what? Is this 15?
This is episode 15, minus the 2 interviews. So this is technically would be our 17th filmed episode.
We are banking. We have broken in the after 10 episode podcast, like people stop. It like doesn't work. So we have broken that. So I think now we need to build up a little bit more and find a sponsor.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, we could try searching for sponsors. That might help.
That might help too.
I honestly have not even taken the time to do it. Maybe sometime in the future. Maybe by the end of this year, I will search at least once. I promise. Unless I forget. I forget often.
Yeah.
Kind of a lot, but
a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, that sequel might be my next project because I have a lot of work I need to do on the Dystopia series. And so in the meantime, could take this already established world, this already established, series, and just kind of add on to it. So I don't know why I started talking about that. Like, I feel like there was a reason or a point.
The outlining and the cards.
Yeah.
It stems back to that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would have to do. I don't even have an outline for this series. These are just what I do with my stories. Is if I ever come up with a possible idea, I grab a piece of paper, and I write down just a general idea of the story. So here it's following the collapse of the coalition of the United States, the Midwest descends into anarchy with raider and highwaymen outposts popping up. A quarter of the coalition's territory is irradiated from the bombs. Another quarter is being annexed by the Augusta Federation, which I think I changed that name in the book, but this is an old paper. This book will introduce a new family or group who has to cope with oppressive highwaymen. They struggle to feed themselves and meet the quota given to them by the highwaymen. They have to supply foods to these bandits, otherwise they'll kill somebody or whatever. They also fight an internal desire to rebel against those bandits. Many believe a rebellion will lead to all of their deaths. The highwaymen raiders raided much of southern Canada, and with the fall of the coalition, they swooped into the western territories of the former coalition. Now, the coalition that I refer to here is a bunch of Midwestern states in the United States. These highwaymen are based out of Winnipeg. They now call it Bismarck their headquarters.
Winnipeg is in Canada. For all who didn't know that, that's in
it is
Saskatchewan. Got to remember, you're talking to a creative writing English major who also combined majored with Canadian studies.
Yeah, well, they call that headquarters. They call it the Peg, And then there's another place they call it the Annex, which is apparently in Toronto. I mean, I honestly I don't. I wrote all this stuff down years ago, and I don't know why I wrote. I don't know how I got the Annex. I don't know how I got Winnipeg, but anyways, the leaders of the highwaymen. There's this one guy they call Randy Robin Hood. I might have to fix some of this crap, but I mean, the idea is that you have these like bandits, then you have these survivors, and then it's just conflict. And then, although I'm also going to throw in, the daughter from the previous book, and some other characters. We'll see. Maybe I will.
I mean, we already broke some. I mean, we did some breaking news already, so I think if you are all our fans a little bit.
I mean, one day it'll come out. I mean, if I don't do it now, I'll do it in like 5 years. So we'll see. It's on the docket. Fairly Human came out in 2018. The little short sequel came out in 2019. 2022 is a good time to release another sequel, I guess. And then
2022 is maybe a good time to release my first book, like I promised.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with writing an outline. Maybe that's what we should both do after we finish filming. I'll write a brief outline for this. You could write just a brief outline for yours.
And next week we can discuss a little bit without divulging too much.
Yeah,
because why tell everybody what the book is about when naked?
To be completely honest, how many people watching are actually going to read the full books that we have?
At least one.
Fair point. Yeah,
at least one. Are we excluding the family members that listen to this?
I think it's almost only family members or good friends who
happen
support our endeavors.
Yes.
But I mean, we'll see. I think
that's. I know we tried to have a second person story, or an idea of it, or at least read one for one episode, and I was the only one who did that. So we probably should actually.
Well,
I know we taxed ourselves after record talking about different perspectives. You're supposed to each read a second person story and then talk about it the next week. I read a second person story. I don't think you did.
Oh,
so I talked about it.
That one.
Yeah. Well, it's too late now because we already did the whole second person. I wrote a whole series with second person. Well, not a whole series, but 3/4 of it was. Yeah. time, which you guys can continue to read because it's still on my website. But we're almost up to 20 views, which hasn't happened in like months. So it's exciting.
Okay, this is the beginning.
It is exciting.
2022. That's the year that all of this takes off like a rocket ship to the moon.
To the moon or Mars.
Oh, Mars. Mars is a little bit farther away.
It is.
But, shoot for Mars and maybe you'll hit the moon, I guess. Inspirational mumbo jumbo. But, yeah. So it sounds like we both have outlines we got to write.
And actually do it.
Because I will say, I want to work on, I like doing spontaneous short stories and I'll keep doing that. But I also want to work on a project. And since my dystopia series is still, like, I don't want to go too deep into developing that story until I've taken my class on dystopia, which starts in less than a week and is going to be going over a whole number of wonderful dystopian series. I've got books I want to read. Like I got that Brave New World back here somewhere. I still have 1984 I got to read. I have a lot of research I got to do, but this requires no research. It's already done. So
it's actually a good segue into our second topic, which was combining these projects with going back to school and working, because we are multitaskers here on the Writer's Block podcast. We are not one-dimensional. We are three-dimensional.
I think in many ways, writers in general have to be.
Because if you're not multitasking, you probably are living in a box on the side of the road.
And by multitasking, I mean writing is one thing that we do, but we also do work and or continued education and or other things, raise
especially
families.
Well,
not me.
We're not me.
Yeah,
but we're like
I don't do families.
Especially the work part, because kind of need some source of income. Like my writing is not bringing me any sort of income. Granted, it's not up there to buy.
Yeah,
I'm just generous in that regard and let everybody read my stuff for free.
Oh, well, thank you, good sir. How generous of thee to share thy words of wisdom and stories and such.
God,
I do the same thing. I personally, like, I always say this. I don't write to get rich. I write because I just enjoy it. I enjoy the process. I enjoy talking about the process. It's one of the few things keeping me alive, probably, kind of, sort of. And so, one day it'd be cool to make money off of it. It'd be cool to make a living off of it.
One day it would just be cool to have, like, I think not even that's like the sole purpose or the sole source of income. Just be cool to be on a bookshelf somewhere for someone to buy.
Yeah.
Or to take out at the library.
Yeah.
And so that would be cool. That would be cool.
And I think for me, like, until I throw the ebooks on like a free promotion I try to do it at least twice a year, because I think I can only do it twice a year. I get like 5 days every 6 months or something. So I try to do that twice a year just so that people can get it. Because I'm like, my big thing for now until I start to get any kind of traction is to just get as many people to read it as possible. And it's easier to do that if it's free. So, I get the free ebooks out. It's harder to do sales on the other like hard copies, because like I already have it priced so cheap so that it mostly just covers the cost of print. But like, I don't know, that's a whole other process. But yeah, balancing it all though is can be difficult, but I think it's all about not pacing, timing. It's about like giving yourself enough time to do everything you need to do, because so you're gonna have to dedicate at least 40 hours a week to work. So labor, bam, that's your job. All right, so you got 7 days, 8 hours of each day. Of each 8 hours of 5 of those days is to that. Maybe you have some more time you have to dedicate to other things like going to the gym or something stupid like that, and then and then you get a little bit of time you got to set aside to for continued education. I've got 4 classes coming up. You've got classes coming up.
Yep.
That takes time. I mean, I'm spending like half of my Tuesday just commuting and then taking this class in a different city because, life is great. But so, in between all that, you still have to find little pockets of time to either write or to develop your story or to outline or whatever. And, as long as you don't overburden yourself with too much throughout the week, then you can do it. But the trick is not, like for school, obviously, like you don't want to do all of your coursework on one day out of the week because you're going to want to die.
Yeah.
Not even two, like you want to sprinkle it out throughout the week. For my classes, I'll do, maybe I'll do one reading each day, because I've got, let's see, I got 7 books for my classes coming up, plus a number of articles that I have to read. So ideally, space out the readings so you don't have too much. Space out the papers you got to do because, of course, you got to do papers. Space out, give yourself like a good, like balanced amount of work so you don't get overwhelmed, and include time to write, include time to develop your books and stories.
Yeah, I think for right now, so I just signed up for these classes. It's all self-taught. So I don't.
Was it beauty school? That we said it was?
Yeah, it's beauty school.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to be, like how it's going to work out. Really, I have all the courses or the videos. So I'm going to try and dedicate at least one like evening a week to just write or outline, at least for maybe half an hour. Not force myself, because sometimes
I think
forcing yourself will be.
You shouldn't force. I just gotta cut this in. You shouldn't force yourself to just write in general, but I think you can force yourself to outline, because
I think
you
at least outlining.
Yeah, with the outlining, I hate to do this, but I have to go back to my man Gary Paulson.
I got to buy that book now, man. It's got to. I might have to, like, once we're done recording, I'm gonna $10.
Yeah.
Oh, I got an Amazon gift card waiting to be spent.
Go to Canada and spend $3 more. $2 more.
That's what happens when the loonie is like. I think I can't remember what it is to the dollar.
It's always been kind of different.
Yeah. That stuff's confusing. Economics in general is confusing.
Yeah, it's just, I think what it is I would assume that the Canadian dollar is worth a little bit more than the US dollar.
Probably.
Somehow.
Although,
no, actually, the other way around, right? I don't know.
Well, that's why, because because it costs more in Canada. So
this is not an economics class.
It is not. We are not a.
But point that I was trying to make, though, is you can, as long as you the first thing you got to do is just have a outline, even if it's a bunch of dog turds roped together. At least you can say you have an outline. Then you can start kind of washing away the crap, and then adding in new things and so forth. Because I personally, I think you could force yourself to write that. I would actually do it today. I personally would just force yourself to just write one.
Well, I'm probably going to.
And then throughout the next week or two or month, you can continue to flesh it out more. You can, I could write in the scene here. I could write in this other crime here, and I can do this and that, whatever. And then you've basically start off with something, then refine it. It's like when they make marble statues, it's just one big block of marble. So just get your big block of marble, then just start chiseling away at it.
Yeah. No, even I was thinking too, like when taking breaks from looking at the computer screen, I could outline on a piece of paper, like to give my eyes a rest, or to give myself a break from learning all the time. I could, take a break and outline a little bit, or do those note cards when the time comes.
I would do it ASAP, especially if you still intend to get your book published by March.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, because because the first part of my courses I can get done in if I sit down and really work on it, I probably could get it done in 2 months, a month and a half. So it's like, okay, do I get that part of the degree done, or do I get my book, like the manuscript, done?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it could be, I could amaze myself and get both done somehow.
Yeah. I mean, first step is getting an outline, because there's no way you're going to have that book done by March if you don't have
An outline.
a
No,
road to get
I've
there.
definitely realized that when I've been trying to like free write. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got the prologue down pat. That was super easy. And now it's because the prologue technically was like a short story with a cliffhanger. So it's now diving into the actual, you got to have scene by scene by scene by scene by scene,
Yeah.
not just like, being able to tell your reader where you're going, how much you're drinking, and then you're sitting in this empty house crying. It's a little different than that.
Yeah. A little bit more research, looking
Yeah.
into protocols and such stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's, what all that research you can do in the outline too. Like as you, once you get to the part where, well, now they're at the morgue. Well, what are the procedures with the morgue? What do they do with the body afterwards? But then you can add that onto the note cards once you get to that point. But first thing is definitely getting an outline. Because like outlines, I hate to do this, but I'm just gonna pull out one of my random outlines that I did for.
See, I don't know what I did with.
Scratch that. That's not an outline.
I don't know. I had it. I don't know what the hell I did with it, because I started an outline from where I stopped writing. So where that was going to be the I don't know, did we talk about it on the podcast or not, but where they're going to have the Chief's going to have his first ever press conference.
Oh,
Kind of going over that. I don't know what the heck.
I have a lot of stuff up here.
That's not good. I am very disorganized in this man cave. Well, because partially I'm like room and board here. It's not really my room. It's grandma and grandpa's room full of stuff. I just have overtaken it with my stuff, which I don't have a lot of stuff.
Fair enough. Oh, here we go.
Other than a cat. That's a lot of stuff in itself.
So here's an outline that I have. Like, I don't have a lot of stuff. The stuff that I do have is not always that organized. I have a lot of books, which I kind of want to downsize, if I'm being honest. I don't need this many books. But so here's an outline that I did for The Sound of Silence, the one that is basically like Carrie. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pages of outlines. Oh, 11 pages worth of an outline. So I went through, major points that I wanted to get done for each chapter. So each page is a chapter's worth. So there's 11 chapters planned. And, it basically, as detailed as I could, I wanted to just know what was going on. And this is, I ultimately broke this down further into the cards, yada, yada. So that's kind of what I would do that's what I would do for your novel is you throw out, like, for example, I've got, basically like actually each one of these tick marks is basically a scene, which I would eventually break down, and
Okay.
talks about, at this point they're at the church and the people are doing all their tongue stuff. They're all, I'm telling you, just do a YouTube video, Pentecostal talking tongues, some weird stuff, religious stuff. I think
It's not weird. Okay, in case we have some paratongue listeners, it's unique.
It's very unique. My mother, her family used to be Pentecostal, I guess, and one of the reasons why I chose this was because she told me when she was a kid she would go to the church with her parents, and her parents should be doing this. Well, the tongue thing, it's supposed to be a language.
This is the Italian side.
Italian and Polish.
Wow.
It's really weird. I don't fully understand it because they're also Catholic. There's a lot of confusion in it to me. I don't fully get it. It's all weird. Sounds
like they're just trying to fit in. So they're just trying to find a bunch of stuff to do.
Like my mom's dad's side was Catholic, came from Poland. If you know Poland, they're fairly Catholic,
Well, so are the Italians. I mean, grandmother wakes up every morning, does a rosary.
Yeah, I mean, Italy is the birthplace of, well, not the birthplace, but it's the capital of Christendom, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
But my mom's mother's side is Italian, Sicilian to be specific.
That there is a difference.
Yeah.
In their eyes, there is a big difference.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the equivalent of like Quebec seeing themselves as different than the rest of Canada.
Yeah, and so, but that I think it was that side. I think they were because I think my mom's mom was Catholic, but my mom's grandmother I think was Pentecostal, and I think she's the one that kind of I don't know the whole story to be honest. But anyways, all I know is my mom she told me about how they went to this church and their parents are doing this thing where the tongue thing is just it's a language of God or something like that, or it's God speaking through them. And I like all this information, like to me, it's different for sure, but it's fascinating at the same time because I use that whole thing to make the story. Because like the daughter, the one that's kind of the daughter's not crazy, but she's like kind of going crazy because she's like, why can't I do this? Because like I think the idea is that God's supposed to take over your vocal cords, or at least that's what she thinks. And so that was why it was very integral to the story for that religion to be part of it. But anyways, worth watching that on YouTube if you can find it, because it's something else, it's something different. But yeah, so it's a fairly detailed outline though, and I would try to go for something like that if you can. And obviously, the more information you get out, the easier it is in the long term. And like I'd throw, I don't really put a lot of dialogue in this, but if there's a certain conversation that I want to have that I want happening, I'll throw it in here. Kind of, get it all going. I did a lot of work on this series. I got to get back to it at some point.
Well, I know. I think it's going to be tough for me in like the first maybe week or two because I got to get. I can't. I think it's been almost what is it, 2022?
Currently, it is.
I graduated in 2018, so it's been at least 4 years since I've taken a class.
Yeah.
So I have to get back into that, especially now that it's like self-taught. I have to remind myself, like, hey, you're paying for this stuff. Let's make sure we do a little bit today. So, you know what I mean? And not wait until my day's off to do all this stuff.
Yeah. So this isn't really writing related, but this is a schedule I printed out for one of my classes. CPO 4034, the development of
so it's like is it a syllabus?
No, this is
when everything is due.
It's a basically a calendar, so I can.
Oh, okay.
I know when things are due, and like for example, January 10th, I got to do a couple readings.
Big on calendar stuff.
A lot of readings.
Yeah, I taught myself that actually or that was taught in that college. There was an advisor who he advised, but he also like helped out, especially first years. We weren't allowed to be called freshmen. It was first years.
Snowflakes.
Anyway, so freshman year, he like had the seminar where he kind of explained. I was lucky enough to have like a one-on-one to like even focus in a little bit more, but to write everything on like go out and buy a calendar and write. You don't have to write all the week. Like if you have a weekly quiz or weekly reading, you don't have to write that down there because But all the major projects do go through all your syllabi. Syllabuses. I think it's syllabi, and put everything that's major, like a research paper or a unit test or something like midterm and stuff, and put it on the calendar. So you'll be able to see what everything's doing. I think I'm going to have to do that but it's different because I'm like, okay, 6 months. I have 6 months to do this. And then I have up to January 5th of 2023 to do the rest. So I think in my head, I have to come up with like due dates, like self due date stuff. This is all like, I guess it's kind of connects to writing if you want to have like due dates for, certain amount of pages or certain amount of chapters.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was a side diatribe thing.
Yeah. I think the trick is just giving yourself enough time to do everything you need to do. And then also not overburdening yourself because, if you get overwhelmed, then you end up kind of
shutting down.
Yeah, or just you end up with subpar work, and then not only does your work suffer, but your grades will probably suffer. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is slowly turning into like a sort of pseudo school advisement thing.
And like, luckily for me, I don't have any. I don't know if I'm graded on stuff other than like the test I have to take at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not graded on anything. I don't think because
I
it's
don't know.
self-taught. I don't know. I have to look into it again. Anyway, side note,
Yeah.
but I think well, balance. Definitely the balancing act is going to be. I'm gonna have to reteach myself that. You're already in the. You've been doing it for a while, so you have it down pat.
Yeah, more or less. I
Just
mean,
like publishing books, you have that down pat. Like it's nothing.
I mean, the thing is like I wrote that first book I wrote in 2017. I started writing it in 2015, technically, and I wasn't in school back then. So like that whole thing was, God, I think I finished writing it in 2017, but I didn't really start going heavily. I didn't go heavy into school until late 2017, early 2018, or maybe it might have just been 2018. But um, and also like, I mean, it depends. Like the second major book I wrote it in like a month and a half, and I think it was also 27. Maybe it was 2018. I don't know. It's a matter of just finding time to write and then also being in that mood to write. Because
Yeah.
like if you're motivated to write, you can pound out a bunch of crap in a decent amount of time. But you know,
Got to just be in that mind. I haven't really hit that mindset for my book anyway since I wrote my prologue. Really.
I don't often get into it because like that's like a synchronization of like two different energy forces or something. Like I don't know how to describe it, but like the last couple books I wrote, like I think once you get into that synergy, then you can, at least for me, I was able to just dump out of 50,000 words or so. But it helps to have the outline before you get into that moment, though, because then you
Yeah.
can like when you've got the outline, you can basically you can imagine the whole story already at that point. You know exactly where you're going, where you're at, what's on between the whole meat and potatoes. And then once you hit that, then it's just type, get carpal tunnel.
Yeah. Do you put like if weather is important, do you put like, or even if it's not important, do you add those details, or do you, as you
Sometimes.
write, you're like, okay, I'm,
like it's like in the, you mean on the cards or just writing in general?
just like on the cards on your outline, or as you're writing the scene out for your final or part of your manuscript, you're like, oh, I think I should add that it's raining, and like for me, like I explained before, small towns plus rain equals like basically no business.
Yeah.
Like no one wants to go out, so I feel like sometimes I need to add that to like set up the scene, like it's a slow day, everybody's bored,
Yeah.
especially if,
It depends on if it serves a story, I guess. Like, if yeah, it depends on the scene. Like if it's required, and yeah, or if it's important. Otherwise, um, you know, I don't really write it. 'Cause, like if it's sometimes I write if it's afternoon or if it's morning, but whether or not it's cloudy or not isn't you know it doesn't always matter to me.
perfect. Well, it's funny because like I know the last book that I read and the one I'm reading now, I pick out details that I don't feel like are necessary,
Yeah, which
and
some
that's
people
just
might
part of my
disagree, but
and that's just part of my writing style. Like
yeah, like,
I want to have enough details for you to understand what's going on, or this, what's going on within, or like the scenery, but down to it, it's like I want to get like to the point.
yeah, 'cause I don't know how important it is to know that it's like slightly overcast. There's a little bit of dew on the grass this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds nice, but like, does it really matter?
I guess
Stuff
the only time it plays, like one of the times it plays an important role, like for me in the Irrational series, like Time, excuse me, the Time series. One of the stories I used cloudiness to like depict the mood of like how the ending of like what you thought like the ending was, the outcome was going to be, and then the same thing with the sun, and then when you're finally going to like the when you were finally going, I'm Italian, I can't help it, man. But like, and then when you get to that, like, the climax of the whole story, it's sunny but also overcast. So you have the reader not really know what's going to happen until they have to read to the end. That's the one time. And then the thunder. That's the only time I used weather was thunder in the second to last story to depict. No one's picked it up yet. Like I had to explain it to a couple people already. I was like, that's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so that kind of, to be honest with you, that specifically is why I would, this is gonna, I feel terrible every time I say this, but that's why I kind of want my audience to be more of like general readers. 'Cause I like general readers who read more frequently as opposed to family or friends might be able to pick up on literary cues like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if the average person is going to read this and like,
like
interpret the implicit, things in it.
Well, like, yeah, that's a good point. Because the first irrational, the first one, irrational, the first one, I had to explain. Like, I had my friend read it, and I had to explain like these certain details what they actually meant. She goes, "Oh, okay, I never picked that." And she reads,
which details?
But she did like
if you don't mind me asking.
Well, no, like
it wasn't
one
like
of them
was it similar to like how I thought that like the family died or something like that?
Oh, no. Well, that's kind of like one of them. Yeah. Like the showing of the picture is one of them, but like even before that, it was the jostling of the doorknob, expecting to hear something that didn't have that you didn't hear anymore. Opening the door and then like what you expected to see, and then you just act. But reality was you saw darkness. And then there's a couple more, but they just thought it was just part of the story. And then when I explained it to them, they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it now."
Yeah, I guess that's I just wanted the conflicts of writing is being able to get all of your thoughts like into the story, but in a way that they're obvious enough to be picked up on,
Well, I mean, in my story, I'm going to give hints and clues. Like in my novel, I'm going to give clues throughout the book to help you figure. I mean, you think it's really like the first one. You think it's super easy for people to pick up on.
I think so. I don't know if you want to. I don't know if we should talk about this because there's a little bit.
But I don't want to. Yeah, but again, but like on the set, I'm going to spoil this though. The second to last story in time. The thunderclaps are the thunderclaps. The thunder like is the paddles to wake you up because you're dying, and that's why it like is raining and got dark and all that's going on. It's because you're dying and they can't revive you. Like you picked up on it in like you picked up on that in like 20 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's what I mean by like. Because I kind of write in the same way, right? I like to have, like, in a way, it's like a story within a story. You have this other thing going on, but it's all sort of implied, and you have to be able to pick up on it. And
I do,
it's fun, but it's fun to write that way because obviously it's,
people don't pick. Well, I do have I did follow an author, an up and coming author. Like he's having his first book published in March. So I'm thinking about pre-ordering it. Like I've been liking the stuff and he finally followed me back. So I'm thinking about
Under Shadow?
No.
You know his name?
Shadow. Eli. I don't know how to say his last name.
Croner.
No, it's Croner. It's not Corner, but it's Croner, I think. He lives in Arkansas. He actually is his audiobook he like did himself. He read he just finished like producing his own audio, like his audiobook. But anyway, I was thinking about like sending the Time series, like DMing him, be like, "Hey, find like this is but it's like also this is like fanboy bull crap."
Random question: how many followers does he have?
He has a decent amount. Like he has.
If it's more than 1,000, I wouldn't do it just because he's probably going to be like, no. I've noticed there's a lot of. I also follow a number of like indie authors, And I've
But
noticed,
he's been like the difference is he's been like shout out. Like people have been praising his book.
yeah, I'm
Like
talking
people
about
are reading.
DM
Oh,
specifically.
okay.
Generally, some people aren't too fond of that,
Yeah.
or they aren't, I don't know how to say how to. But anyways, you could always just be like, "Hey, I'm a indie author as well. Mind if I run this project by you?"
But I also should say I think I probably should pre-order his book.
I wouldn't tell him
I
that.
pre-ordered your book too.
I don't. It could get
No,
weird. He might be like, "Oh God, ultra
that's
mega
true.
fanboy,
Yeah,
gonna show up outside my house."
probably.
I don't know. I mean, I don't
I
know
don't
the
know
best
where
way to
I
do
don't
this.
know where my phone is, or I would tell you how many.
I mean, it's not that important, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
and I know it's like authentic because he's not trying to sell the same like his same 4 books on eBay over and over again and using the same one tweet about how you can have like I can have like a class presentation. Like this, I had to unfollow this one guy who
oh
was just like constantly. I think it was like a spam DM, like
yeah, some
buy
of them
my
are.
audio. I was like,
I usually, I do the same thing where I either unfollow them or I just mute them. But
yeah.
yeah, some of that stuff's a bit too much. But yeah, it's I don't know. I haven't actually. I I've only had an interaction with a couple other indie authors, and it's usually they'll be like, "Oh, thanks for following me back" or whatever. Because like there's a few years ago, like when I first started really writing and really trying to get out there, like a number of people I'd follow a number of people, they would follow me back, and they would be like, "Thanks for following me back," blah 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 blah. And some people were like, "Hire me if you need editing," stuff like that. But you know, it's been quiet for the last 3 years though. So, but I mean, if you can build that, like, if you can build a rapport with them, that'd be cool. I mean,
Get him on the pod.
that would be great. I mean, we haven't had an interview in a while,
We haven't.
so
There's one still kind of in the books. I have to figure out the deep. There's someone who's committed to do
oh really?
an interview. Remember, I told you this already.
Yeah, I figured since it hadn't happened, I figured they would.
Well, it was but then it was the holiday season. I forgot to bring it up. But they were definitely down to do it because they are literature. I think they're going for their literature PhD for.
That's commitment.
Yeah, I was like, damn, okay. They're gonna definitely outshine me in the smarty pants aspect. I don't know.
I mean,
You could go neck and neck.
I no disrespect, but a degree in writing, literary stuff, or genre fiction, or English,
It's tough.
it helps, but it doesn't make you a Stephen King or
It's
any.
tough. I mean, firsthand, I'm going back to school for something I didn't even remotely study
Yeah,
in college.
like was it cosmetology?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why that's the only reason why I didn't go for creative writing for my degree because well, for one, I mean, I do some of my own research for it, and also because that it's never a guarantee that you're gonna be able to find work. It's not gonna be a guarantee that your work might be better, but you still need that luck in a way.
And this Eli Kroner, if apologize for butchering his last name, he's a school teacher. Like he writes on the side. Like he's a
That's actually kind of what I wanted to do, to be honest.
remedial English teacher for 10th graders, I think.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, he might not be able to come on a podcast, and I don't know if, considering some of your language that you used in the previous week, I don't think he'd want his school children to see such a vulgar language. So good one there.
Would you edit it and mute me, or just have to like?
Oh no, that's all out there. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know because that has premiered.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone's the thousands of people that are pouring in to see it right now. They're all going to hear your vulgarity.
Yep, that's tough. I think on that note, it might be time to sign off because I'm embarrassed. You might have to run this pod solo pretty soon. I might have to kick myself off. be in timeout for a week or two because of my language, my inappropriate language.
I mean, I have been practicing solo videos for a while, but I don't know. It'd be tough. You know what I'd probably do is I'd just get a sock puppet and I would just pretend like you were still there,
There you go.
That I could do.
I could have my cat take my place for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, the Todd and Sully show. That's an idea.
That's an
Is he
idea.
just back there sleeping?
Yeah.
Oh, jealous.
It's almost dinner time. What, 5:30? Yeah, it's dinner time for him pretty soon. By dinner time, I just throw wet cat food in his dry cat food dish. And that's it.
Well, that sounds scrumptious,
Scrumptious.
if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Well, I guess before we get into the finishing home, oh god, yeah, I mean we're probably like an hour and 20 minutes into this.
Yeah, I think we need to. I think we should hold off on that last topic for next time.
All right. Well, I guess fair enough. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening if you're doing that. Thanks for being a part of this adventure for us, because this is we're doing this for you guys, but we're also doing it for ourselves. We're learning
As we go
along.
Exactly. So technically, we're in school, and that we have to pay for, and then we're in free school. This is free school.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Unless you have to pay for like utilities, then the Wi-Fi is definitely not free.
Yeah,
So
technically
it's
on
not
the
free school.
cost of Wi-Fi, the cost of camera, the microphone.
Yep, the microphone. Yeah.
But investments.
Investment.
But yeah, it's been quite a time. And I come back and see us again next week because we'll have another one. We're always going to have another episode, unless one of us gets hit by a bus. In which case, we might need a week off.
We might need a couple of days.
Yeah, find a replacement and such.
Or we could just have we can zoom in from the hospital bed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, like the issue would be like if one of us like gets hit by a bus and also dies.
Okay. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's a good point. Then we're definitely gonna have to find a replacement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where that would be time consuming. We need at least a week and a half. Yeah. Well, one of us would need a week and a half.
We're gonna have to find a call, or we just have go solo for a little while. But I've definitely learned that I know people, especially like old sports, like athletes who were given like a 3-hour radio show to talk about stuff. They're like, I ran out of stuff for 3 minutes. So it would definitely be tough to do a podcast by yourself.
It wouldn't be easy. It would not be easy, but we should stay away from such morbid subjects.
We should
try to.
Our writing is morbid enough. I think we need to stay away from talking about it.
Let's get back to our regular stuff, like my post-apocalyptic, horrible living condition that's called A World of Dread and Fear. And you can go back to your crime thriller where young women are being murdered
and being found, or their bodies are floating onto a beach.
Yeah,
well, at least the first one did. Spoiler alert: there's more than one eventually.
Oh my gosh! You should do one of those. One of them should be all right. Look up Laura Palmer, and one of your deceased victims. It should be just like that, Laura Palmer. Look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
Twin Peaks. I'll tell you more afterwards. Let's just cut this up now. Okay. That way we can let our hostages go. Thank you guys. Check out our Twitter accounts, our websites. Merch. You know the drill. If you're still watching, still listening, you're the MVP, okay? Because holy crap, it's been a long conversation. And we'll see you guys next time. Farewell.